A little bit about myself. My name is Jonathan Sheppard, born and raised in Seattle, Washington. Proud Seattleite. Even though I talk a lot of mess about the city, it is my home. I do have a strong affinity for it still, and it's still like, it's probably the reason for my disposition. It is trite, but being in LA all these years, like every time I tell somebody from Seattle, every Seattleite knows what they're gonna say. They're either gonna say rain or depression, rain or depression, rain or depression. I was born in Seattle, moved to LA when I was 21 years old, just for kicks, for fun, for a new adventure, doing dumb kid stuff, just doing whimsical things, which is probably one of the greatest things I did, though. I'm so glad I did it. Moving to LA, I love this city. That's why I'm still here, and I don't plan on going anywhere for a long time, despite it crumbling, as you may read in the Donut Protocol. So I moved down here in 2007. I graduated from LACC, Los Angeles Community College, or Los Angeles City College, in 2011, and then I transferred to UCLA. I stopped going to UCLA and took a long gap until 2019, or 2017 actually. This is when I went back, and then I graduated in 2019. So I got my bachelor's from UCLA in English, but in between that time, I was still writing. That's when I began my company, Bathhouse Publishing Company. In 2013, I published my first work, Someone Sinister, which was a book of poetry, and that's probably why no one's ever heard of me, because like Alexander Pope said, he said there's no money in poetry, but he also said there's no poetry in money. Which I think we're kind of finding out, in today's society, especially since like poetry, there's so much meaning behind the words that we use, and that's one reason why I became an English major, because I was obsessed with words. I remember I used to write lyrics, and ever since I could remember, I've been writing down just random quotes in books and sketchbooks. I always had a sketchbook. And I would sketch, but I would always be writing stuff too. Always be writing something. And then I remember in middle school, when my older brother, he started to be really getting into the producing. So he was doing it hardcore. So I was around him all the time. So I wanted to start rapping. So I started writing lyrics, and but I was always more attracted to the words and the beats, always. Even though I love great production, of course, that makes production is all people are listening to nowadays, actually, I would argue. But production makes the music awesome, it's beautiful. But I was way more attracted to lyricists and lyrics and words, and to what people were saying or attempting to say. But that was also, I was always attracted to poetry as well. I don't like I'm not going to list all the people I'm influenced by or any of that type of stuff. I don't like going down lists. But, maybe people can gauge by when they read my work, like who I'm influenced by, or maybe I'll divulge more of that in the future, because I do have a lot of favorites, and that's why I hate listing them, because it's like, well, I don't even know any great influence anymore, it's just like all kind of jumbled in my head, like all the great works that I've read, or even skimmed, or all the great poems that I've read, all the great novels, all the nonfiction, everything that I've read, it's all in me, and it all influences my work, and I don't want to take that, and we're all doing that, actually. We're all influenced by the causality of the past, I think, and I think that's true. I think that's 100% true. And I think that people actually know that's true too. That's why they have savings accounts and things of that nature. And that's why they invest in the stock market. So they understand that there is a causality to the things you do. And that causality is not just for money, where there is no poetry. But I was always attracted to the words. I was always attracted to the lyrics. So I just started writing in my math notebook. I would just be writing in notebooks. I would have like rhymes, and then I didn't write nothing for a long time until college, until at LACC actually. I would just be writing random things in my notebook, like my math notebook. I'd be in class and just be writing down like limericks and haikus and just random free form and poetry and stuff. And then I just would not do anything with it. I would just write it, and then I always had a blog. And then I just started posting some of the stuff that I was writing in my notebook on my blog, because I always had a blog where I was always giving my opinion. And since 2007, I've been giving my opinion. So like, if you even go back to 2007 posts, like, you'll see that I've been almost pretty consistent in my thought processes. I've probably becoming more, I don't know, I actually won't even try to say it. But I just want, people to understand that that I do have a thought process involved, that I'm influenced by a lot of different works and a lot of different people in my life, a lot of different people in the world, in the society in which we live, which is a global society, obviously. That's probably one of the problems with the society nowadays, is that we're saying that there's this one box that everyone can fit into, and that's absolutely being proven to be false. And by that box, I mean that we all should have the same ideologies, that we all moralize the same, because I'm not going to go on a rant, but some of these. So I started with poetry because I believe that's the beginning. I was like, where do I want to go on my writing journey? And when I thought about that, I was like, where do I start in my journey for poetry? I started with, the Romantics, and their poetry. That's why you see my structure, and like a lot of the forms I use is Romantics. Even like my first book, Someone Sinister, even though Milton is not a romantic, of course, my epic poem is based in that kind of realm. It's like around that 200-300 period. It's English poetry. Let's say that, instead of delving into these time periods, these eras. English poetry, specifically from England. And that's where I want people to understand that we have to start going backwards, because what this society is telling us is that technology and all these things are signals of progress, when they are not. They are actually just trying to cover up that we are regressing drastically, that they're trying to debase us in ridiculous ways, and that we are just doing it willingly based upon narrative and based upon institutions that were corruptly built, that we are now trying to lionize and say that they now have some moral compass, even though they're built based on corruption, based on gross biases, based on just hideousness, based on the most gross crimes you ever want to say. And these same people and their progeny are still the ones teaching you the critical theory that is trying to that's trying to say that, a television show is worse for society than the bank that their progenitors, built, that is still destroying the society today. So I don't see a lot of these things as, two sides of an issue. There's a battleground, and then there's a line in the sand, and there's one group on one side and one group on one side. I see it as these people are all on the same battlefield, having an argument at dinner, and then a lot of us are just there. A lot of us are the fodder for their arguments. Actually, we are the fodder for their arguments at dinner. That's all that's happening, and they're trying to trick us and moralize us that we should accept everything and everyone does, and especially coming as a black man, coming from a black group who is not accepted based upon us in the womb, so we can get tossed in by the progenitors of degenerate ideologies, of degenerate institutions. They can influx the society with all these dumb words, this discursive circumlocution that doesn't mean anything. It just means that all it means is that they don't know how to atone for what they did to the world, and feel sorry for their position, and they don't know what to do. So now they're just going to mess up everything and everyone and cause as much confusion until it all falls. So that is kind of, very drastic. And you're probably like, oh man, the media tells me that somebody who reads and does research and comes up with their own conclusions is a zealot or a nut or someone who should not be listened to because they are not credentialized by us, the media, who we know only read about 2 paragraphs down into the article before we get to the real meat and bones of what you really need to know. So you shouldn't listen to that person. You should listen to us. And then we know what's best for you. Based upon what? Based upon the past? No. Based upon now when you're openly lying to people? No. So I understood that all this is being controlled by words. Words. And that's why I always start at the beginning, and poetry was the beginning. That's why all my poetry was just my first love, because I think I'm expressing how I feel well through it. Maybe that's my insanity, but I wanted to do, that's part of the progression, the timeline, the progressive timeline, is the poetry was first. And that's why I read a lot of poetry. And then what was next? I published a book of short stories, bad stories. And then a lot of my favorite authors wrote short stories, a lot of short stories, and short stories are just wonderful. It's a wonderful art form, I just think it's so cool how you can just give something a beginning, middle, and end, shorten it, and it just be so compelling and so great and leave you with something. And that's one reason why I love poetry and fiction, because nonfiction tries to tell me that this is factual, but then once you start investigating things, you go backwards, and that's why I always say it's causality. You go backwards from this point where you met the information, go backwards from there. Try to trace it from where the person who you got the information probably got the information from. And I thought that's what we were taught at these research institutions. But I realized that a lot of people are just there to get the credential and to get the clout or the cachet that comes with having a degree, because they know that it assumes some sort of intelligence or some sort of success or some sort of minimum, a lot of different things. When in my estimation, it doesn't mean any of those things. It just means you went to an institution and you got a degree. That's not to minimize these institutions, because a lot of them are great, but these places are the fount for all this. But that's me on the, I don't know, I'm just going on these tangents. But it's poetry. So I started with poetry, went to short stories. I love short stories. And then novel was next. It's always the next. I always wanted to work up to a novel. Always. And I just wanted to be good, and I wanted to maintain my sensibilities, who I am, how I was raised, what I know, what I believe about the society that I live in, from which I was thrust, from which I was born, what I've researched, and what I know, and I will reiterate that this is my sensibilities. So I never expected none of my stuff to ever be liked or anything. I kind of don't know if I ever created it. I actually understood that this would probably be I would die broke, because most of my favorite artists did, because doing what you love and trying to get people to connect to your unique perspective, especially in your time, is difficult, and I know everyone's battling with that, everyone. And I think our social media age is probably is showing that too, where everyone's trying to find a purpose, and now they're finding a purpose in these false doctrines, man. And they're using just these false associations and just corrupt moralization. It's corrupted. and with no framework. They're saying that everything, they're trying to moralize, but they're also saying that nothing has any definition. How can you moralize if nothing has any definition, if everything's perception? These people are trying, that's why I call it discursive circumlocution, because they're just making up ways to not answer questions. Since the Enlightenment, that's all that's been happening. They're making up ways to not answer serious questions. Nothing they say is true. Evolution is theology. It's religion. Humanism is religion. All these things are not proven to be factual. They are not even proven to be, they're almost as theoretical as God. They pretty much are as theoretical as God. They found something in the ground, saw something else over there, and associated them falsely. Like, this shit is, like, I don't know. That's why I don't like talking on camera, because that's probably just shows me just, like, I can't focus my thoughts. Especially when I start talking about certain issues. So then when you read this novel, you'll see what I'm trying to do, I think. Especially when it pertains to the family, and especially in a society that is coming at you at all different angles all the time, with propaganda, with violence, you know, with you know, this false moralization, man. All these different things. They're telling you that you have to look like this person, you have to be like this person, that if you do this, you're going to feel better about yourself. If you do that, you're going to feel bad. If you think this way, you're horrible. If you think this way, you're good. And they're not really, but they're just purposely causing confusion. And when you attempt to bring order, that's when they attack you. And that's what I've been noticing. But that's more rambling. So I finally worked up to the novel. That's what the Dormer Protocol is. You can probably gauge from this brief video, you know, how I feel and my thought processes, and a little bit about my personality and how I'm thinking about the world. At least I'm trying to think honestly about the world that we live in, and I'm not trying to moralize. I'm saying, look, I can go to places and positions in time where things happen that there's no explanation, and all that's happening is things are being piled upon that. And they think that if they pile enough things on it, it makes the truth false. That's why you see this book is about magic. What is magic? It's spell casting, spelling, words. What is that? They're saying they can use words to create reality. They're saying they can use words to create reality. And that's what globalization is. That's what races are. Races are a group of people can become one group by one word based upon a designation, a racial hierarchy determined in any society. And I'm not saying specifically this society, because there are other societies in this world who have racial hierarchies that aren't getting shitted upon, that are being imported to this country every day, and the black people in this country are supposed to be like, oh well, import all the races you want. Just do it, you know. See, that's part of the globalization. So if I say that thought, and they say that we should be like, this is another way. Okay, let me show you how I say words work, and then and how I think. So when somebody says I'm phobic of something, I'm saying, should I be scared of that? Ask them that. Should I be scared of what you're saying to me, and what you're trying to do, and what you're trying to, the ideology that you're presenting? Is your ideology sound? Is it based upon, what is it based upon? Just ask them questions like that. And they're going to say you're attacking them based upon what? On the questions that you're asking, by trying to inquire, by being inquisitive, by being thoughtful, by not just accepting things based upon what? The moralization that they don't believe in? Think about it. This society, that's how words work. Maybe we should be phobic of certain things, and we should ostracize ourselves necessarily from these societies. And the society should not try to guilt us and moralize us into accepting every single ideology that comes at us, especially when the fount of this entire society is built on total and complete corruption. You have to maintain your solace. You have to do it yourself, and if you look outside of yourself for that, you're going to be very, very hard pressed to find it. And when the world tells you and kicks you right in your fucking ass, you're going to be hurt. And I know this. But this work is a culmination of who I am, and that's a little bit about who I am, at least in terms of this work. This isn't biographical by any means. I just want to give you just an off the cuff just me flowing off the top of my brain, thought process about like where I am in this journey up to this novel, about who I am. I'm a writer. I'm a black man, a so-called black man, because I'm black in the society. I think we definitely need to have more conversations about separating our terms out and becoming more definitive with who we actually are, which will take some really great research and good research. But for now, I'm with the black people who are foundational to this country, who built this country, foundational black Americans, descendants of American slavery, descendants of slavery in America, the people of the captivity, specifically of this place, of the United States of America. We have to start making more determinations about who we are and not letting people tell us who we are. That's why I can even say that. Like, I'm so-called black now. We were just African American. We were Negro. They're just telling us who we are. What the fuck am I gonna be next? And now we're just accepting it because we're accepting our position as the opposite of them. And we're necessarily have to accept the black position because they are treating us, they're hermeticists who are necessarily treating us as their opposite. And now they're trying to bring us together with all this stupid, fake, ideological bullshit where they're trying to, I don't know if it's prophecy or they're just trying to force prophecy to be true, but this is some bullshit. So that's why I don't get it. I'm not going to get into all that shit because y'all gonna think I'm crazier and cat shit than you probably already do. But I'm just saying, this is who I am, This is who I am. But, you can pre-order the Donor Protocol at badthoughtspublishing.com. I promise to come with a video that's more directed and more focused, but I just really wanted to know who I am, and who I am is not scripted. So, thanks.